Morning and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Amber Nestor. I'm the owner and founder of TennesseeLandAndHomeStore.com. I'm an agent, a principal broker, and here today on August 18th, 2026, I'm going to talk about a creative, affordable housing opportunity with options to grow and monetize the property. I think this is a really important thing that needs to be talked about more to help the buying public to create opportunities for themselves that are not only creating immediate solutions and affordability, but long-term monetization and profit in a variety of ways. Finding properties that make things like this possible is a challenge, and real estate agents like myself that serve both buyers and sellers who have a lot of experience in land development and construction and rules and restrictions can help you find and create situations like the one I'm going to explain here today. This is a real property that's for sale right now and that you could really explore doing something like this with it. So in this scenario, we're going to imagine today that we have 5 people that are all looking to become homeowners, and all are interested also in having Airbnb revenue in the future and expanding. If you're going to create a team of 5 people for this particular scenario that I'm going to explain today, if you're going to have a high likelihood of succeeding and seeing this thing through, there are certain factors and characteristics that each of you needs to have. You're going to need to have similar values, similar beliefs, and an extreme and deep level of respect for one another. If you don't have those commonalities, then you're going to have discord and dispute and discontent, and you will fail. So when bringing together 5 people to pursue a project like the one I'm going to demonstrate with this real property that you could buy right now and actually explore doing something like this with it, if you're going to do something like this and be extremely profitable and successful, I can't emphasize this enough, you need to have a team of 5 people who very deeply respect each other and very deeply have the same visions, goals, and values, okay? So having said that, let's say you're just one person and maybe you don't have a great network of support. Where could you go to find people that are like-minded like this? Go to your church. Get involved in a local church, get involved in a local Bible study, get involved in some type of organization where you can find people that are responsible, that are goal-oriented, and that share your values, your vision. Because if you could create a team of 5 people, what you could accomplish together would be so amazing. Maybe you're very lucky and you have some cousins or some siblings or some second cousins or some family members that you trust, that you respect, that they respect you and they trust you, and you might collaborate with them. Maybe you grew up playing sports with some people who are very responsible and have similar values and priorities as you. These people must be stable to the highest degree, responsible to the highest degree, and very goal-oriented, and willing to, be consistent and dependable. Excuse me, I about always have a touch of allergies in the morning. Anyway, let's take a look at this specific property that is for sale right now, where you could attempt to explore a project like I'm talking about. So imagine 5 people come together, each with an investment of $59,240. That's what it would take to start this project, okay? $59,240, okay? So sorry, you guys. So sorry about my allergies. I'm gonna grab a glass of water. Okay, so next step here. Let's look at the property where this vision could potentially be achieved. And again, we're looking at an example where 5 people come together with an investment of $59,240 each. This number is a doable number for a lot of people. You might be able to get a personal loan to do this. And you might be able to get a mini mortgage to do this. You might have cash saved up for this. You might have cash saved up for part of this. Maybe you get a personal loan for the rest of it. There's lots of different ways you might attempt to go about this, okay? So, and if you need someone that will do smaller loans like these, contact me and I can help you put you in touch with several people that you could discuss your options with. Let's go to the next screen. Very quickly, I'm just going to show you my contact information here. You can locate all of that by going to TennesseeLandAndHomestore.com or AmberNestorRealEstate.com. I have many domains. They all forward to this same website. So currently, if you'd like to look at the drone video tour, the lot line diagrams, the exterior or the interior of the property, or where it's at on a map in relation to waterways and key towns and locations, you can go to Realtor.com and type in the address that you see here. Let's make that a bit larger. And you can see that says 425 Ash Cabin Hollow Road, Harriman, Tennessee. Okay. Ash has an E at the end. So first we're going to click through the images. I might very quickly just intro the video tour. Then we're going to go to a diagram of the lot lines for the property, and I'm going to explain how this could benefit 5 people by creating an affordable housing solution and then creating an opportunity for growth and monetization of the property. So this is the front and the right side of the home, the primary structure that's there. This is the right side of the home and the back of the structure that's there. This is the acreage diagram. You can see there's a rectangle at the front and a larger rectangle at the back, essentially, right, with some bends in it. This is showing you where the property is located in relation to these waterways and marinas. And this is showing where the property is located in relation to key towns and regions. This is a picture of the home just a few days ago. This is looking at the front. There's often deer. There's roughly 315 plus feet of gravel drive that takes you from the paved road front to the side and past the home to a 3-bay carport, which also has a 4th section in it for like an animal enclosure or just a locked enclosure. Maybe you want to put bikes in there or something and lock them up so they're not just, you know, open to anyone walking up to them. This front area here is a little bit overgrown. Currently the grass is a little bit overgrown unless it's been mowed in the past couple of days. I think it's been about 2 days since I visited the property. This brush pile got very wet after we had someone bush hog the backyard and the land. So it's been covered with a tarp to give it some time to dry, but we've had a lot of rain. So once it's dry, it's going to be burned off and removed. These curtains were tossed about by the wind. They have been removed. This shows some possibilities that someone could imagine, like putting in a pool in the backyard or you know, expanding the deck and making it really beautiful underneath, things like that. This is the garage door, which would be best replaced with a sliding glass door. There's multiple pictures of the large, spacious basement, which has 2 windows, a garage door, which would be best replaced with a sliding glass door, a residential style door, which would be best replaced with a double door, one being a ceiling to floor glass door. You can see those 2 windows over there. This can be removed. It's movable. It's not hooked up. It's not operational, this hot tub. But this space down here would be optimal if finished out by this back wall here having a washer and dryer, a toilet, replacing the sink that's already there with a nicer sink, but the one that is there is reportedly functional. It just looks a little outdated. And then over here beside, by getting this hot tub out of here, which would be very easily done, replacing that with a large walk-in luxury shower, putting a wall from here to here, and then using this big open space for 1 or 2 more bedroom type spaces. The current septic permit on file will allow you to make this into one big entertainment room. You could potentially divide that into 2 entertainment rooms, but you couldn't legally call them bedrooms unless you had your septic permit upgraded. So that would be something you could explore. There's 2 HVAC units. One of them is only a year old and has been completely installed. The ventilation system for the house has been rerouted to come out of the ceiling, so the vents blow air out of the ceiling instead of out of the floor, so you have more floor space now. This is a picture of the cleared section of the backyard. And this is it again during after a snow and in the winter and in the fall. This is a closer up diagram of those property lines, and right here you can see that around 350 feet up the gravel drive is the placement of the current primary structure, which is approximately 2,088 square feet. And then you have this big chunk of acreage back here. Here's the diagrams we mentioned earlier. This shows the topography. When looking into this tree line, which the tree line kind of is through here, okay, you can see that this is very gentle rolling topography. And there's sections through here that are gentle and rolling as well. This diagram is misleading, and topography diagrams often are not perfectly accurate. A topography diagram can tell you what might be happening in a space, but they're sometimes a bit inaccurate, sometimes extremely inaccurate. So I would encourage you to walk the property. There's lots of gentle rolling and variable topography in here that's very workable in my opinion. There's a creek line that borders the road, and there is a culvert, and the gravel drive passes over that. This shows confirmation of the internet options that are available. This shows the beautiful paved road frontage, and this is the entry point of the driveway. This is looking at the driveway leading up to the home, and you can see how private it is. This shows proximity that the property has to key and desirable places here as well. These are some other places that are key and desirable that are close to the property. This is focused on a lot because if you are looking to move to East Tennessee and you're not familiar with the region, we want you to understand that this is a great location. This is looking out of the front window. This is looking out of the kitchen window into the backyard. The sink is in place and functional in the kitchen. These are some more images from in the basement. This is emphasizing all of the windows on the main level have been replaced with Energy Star windows. This is looking inside the hot tub. It's not hooked up. It's not been used by the current owners. It was left behind by the previous owners reportedly. It's not attached. It can be scooted around. It can be removed, whatever. The property has public water, and that is how the house functions. But there is a bonus well. The well is not currently hooked up and functional, but it was functional for many years. And this is reportedly, of course, I'm not a well inspector. This is looking at the cinder blocks that protect and cover the well head in relation to a old swing set post that's wooden. The living room and kitchen have had the separating wall removed, and it is now an open floor plan space. The insulation and sheetrock has been redone throughout the main level of the home. All new lighting has been put in the attic, in every living space, bedroom, walk-in closet, and bathroom. The main level of the home is ready for painting and finish work with the walls and ceiling, and floor installation with the floors. The only part of the main level that doesn't have the old flooring totally removed is this section of the kitchen right here. Around parts of the main level where there are plumbing fixtures, kitchen, bathroom 1 and bathroom 2, you will see that the sheetrock is open and the insulation is open. This is because the stage in renovation that the current owners were at when they had to relocate for work, they were about to pick out their new custom cabinetry and their new modern looking plumbing fixtures. But this sink is functional, and bathroom number 1, which is closest to the kitchen, has a sink, toilet, and shower that are functional. Bathroom number 2, which is attached to the master bedroom, has already had the toilet and the shower and the tub and the vanity and the sink removed, and all those plumbing outputs are capped off properly, because I guess that was the one they were going to be, redoing first to completion. These images are showing the living room, kitchen, open connected space in different angles. These are the double doors that open up to the back deck. This is a front door, which is new and has been replaced. Also notable, the main level has also had new solid hardwood doors installed for all of the bedrooms. There is a new thermostat, which can be controlled by an app on your phone or manually there just with your hands. There is a new electrical panel installed, new exterior lighting, additional outlets, and also there are 2 hookups for hoses, all new siding as well on the exterior. This is a picture I took while I was walking towards the back of the backyard grassy space, and you can see there's a lot of flat and gently rolling space to work with. This is looking at the back deck, standing in the driveway. These, I think these are propane tanks. These are some kind of tanks, probably propane. I might be incorrect on that, but they convey with the sale of the home. Everything that is on the property that you see when you go is conveyed with the sale of the home. The surveillance system can be included if you want it. Any stuff that's there. Additionally, if there's anything that you want to have removed before closing, you can let us know and we will arrange that as well. This is a picture from one of the hiking trails that is close to the home on the waterfront. We have lots of waterfront parks, marinas, boat ramps, docks, hiking trails, etc. throughout Roane County, and they are just, this spot here is maybe a 5-minute drive away. This is a picture of inside the crawl space where you can see it's been properly lined and sanitized, and there is lighting. There is really great lighting all within the attic, access spaces as well. And someone's car alarm is going off. Okay, they've got it. So now that you know a little bit more about the property in its current state, how could 5 people maybe potentially explore attempting to come together to make this an affordable housing opportunity with the ability to expand, grow, and monetize the property in the future? So this is something that I think someone should explore and attempt. I can't guarantee that all of this would work perfectly because I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not a soil scientist. I'm not a licensed contractor, okay? But I have studied land and land development my entire career. I have met with contractors at the property. I have met with many contractors throughout the span of my life. I've collaborated with many contractors throughout the span of my life. I've built a tiny home before. I have helped to renovate many places where I've lived throughout my life. I was married to a master electrician who did both residential and electrical and also did a lot of contract work for renovations. I watched my father build our family home in southern Louisiana before we moved to Tennessee. When I was a young lady, when I was a very young lady, we moved to Tennessee. I watched my father renovate and upgrade many aspects of our home. I helped to run resorts and hotels and cabin resorts and all kinds of things throughout my life. So, and I've worked with many buyers and sellers over the years and developers. So I have a lot of experience. So here's what I envision as an affordable housing opportunity with opportunity to grow and potentially monetize this property. Let me pull up my calculations one more time. So let's go back to imagine we have 5 people who have a similar set of values and a way of thinking, who are going to just be perfectly suited to work together and to get along and to agree, okay? Can't emphasize this enough. Don't try to do this with people that don't have similar values, that don't have a similar vision, that are not agreeable, that you don't get along with, because this is just going to fail, okay? These have to be people that you would trust with your life, with your children, with your future, with your finances. This has to be someone that you could leave alone in a room with $1 million and leave them alone there and come back in a month and that $1 million would still be there. That's the level of trust you need to have if you're going to go in on a project with other people. If you don't trust them like that, you should be able to leave your cat or your dog or your child alone with this person for a month and come back and everything be perfect. If you don't have that level of trust for the people you're thinking about collaborating with, you shouldn't be collaborating with them, okay? This has to succeed. Otherwise, you're going to have risk, stress, and loss, all right? So let's imagine that you and a total of 5 people are going to collaborate. Maybe the 5 of you already work on a construction crew. Maybe you all work on a construction crew together, okay? So maybe one of you is great with electrical, one with plumbing, one with roofing, one with walls and painting and finish work and trim, one with flooring, okay? And maybe one of you, maybe you all have some experience with framing and siding. So at the current listing price today, which this could change day by day, but this video is being made August 18th, 2006. At the current listing price of $296,200, the 5 of you, if you split that evenly, that's $59,240 each. If each of you could either get a loan or contribute cash of that amount, then this property becomes yours. You contact me, I write up the offer, and we close. And if you all bring cash, we could close in as little as 2 weeks. If you all bring a loan, or if some of you bring a loan and some of you bring cash, we could close in 30 to 45 days. Just depends on the type of loan. If you guys have already secured your loaned funds, if you already have those funds, 2 weeks. You could close in as quickly as 2 weeks, okay? So like if you each got a small loan, okay, rather than like a mortgage, all right? So you each bring $59,240 to the table, and actually you don't have to physically bring it to any table. You can just transfer it from your bank. You don't have to go in person to a title company. It can all be done remotely, okay? You do it with mobile notaries, and you do it with e-signs and phone calls and emails, all right? You don't have to go in person anywhere to close on property. So You each contribute $59,240 each. All right. So what you could potentially explore doing together is you all live in this house together and you finish it out together. Okay. Considering there is a functional kitchen and a functional bathroom in place already, and considering you would be using cash or personal loans, I am not sure if you would need to obtain a certificate of occupancy or not. I'm honestly not sure on that. I know that when you're doing new construction, there's a stage in which you have to get certificate of occupancy. And the criteria that have to be met to get that certificate has to be approved by an inspector. But when you're buying a fixer-upper, I'm not sure that there's a step or process in place that would ever cause the town or the county to want or need or require an inspection in regards to certificate of occupancy. Okay, so that's something that you might need to look into. I honestly am not certain what would happen with that. The state that the home is currently in might meet criteria for certificate of occupancy, but I really don't know. I'm not certain. Okay, so let's just imagine that you've all come together and purchased the property. It is now yours. Maybe you're not going to live there while you guys finish it out together. Maybe you guys are going to, finish it out a little bit before you move in. Maybe you're going to live there while you finish it out. I don't know. Whatever you guys decide to do. But you finish out the house together. You live there. Let's fast forward and say, okay, I had to do some communications. I paused this video, so we're going to try and pick up where I left off. Okay, so you've got 5 people, each contributing roughly $59,000 to purchase the property and gain ownership of the property. And now you finish it out together. If you're going to use cash, great. If you're going to use a loan, what you want to do, personally in my opinion, is you want to find a loan with the lowest possible interest rate, a fixed rate, okay, not a variable rate, because if it goes up, then that's going to increase your risk, okay? And then you're going to want to have the term of that loan be as long as possible, because if the term of the loan is long, then you can have a smaller monthly payment that's your required legal minimum, which helps eliminate risk. When you make payments on that loan, what you're going to want to do is look at what the minimum payment requirement is per month, and then divide that number by 4. And then that number is what you're going to pay every Monday at minimum towards paying off that loan. And what that's going to do is rapidly decrease everything, your compounding interest, your principal, your average daily balance, okay? It's going to help you pay it off faster. It's going to help you to budget on a weekly basis instead of on a monthly basis, which most of us live naturally in a weekly format. We don't typically think on the scope of a month, okay? When it comes to just day-to-day decision making, you want to feel that payment weekly, not monthly, okay? If you can get in the habit of doing that, and then your budget allows, then you increase what that weekly payment is, so that you're not only paying frequently and early, but you're also paying extra, okay? Then you guys finish out the house, all right? You're all living there peacefully because, again, like I said at the beginning of this, you're people who have similar values and goals, and you're like-minded, and you get along, and you respect each other at the deepest possible level. You respect each other's sleep. You respect each other's schedules. Your schedules are compatible. Do not try to do this where some of you work day shift and some of you work night shift. That's completely and utterly idiotic. Don't do it. Do not do it. You respect each other's peace and quiet, okay? You respect each other's space. You need people that are very, very, very like-minded, okay? So you get the house finished out, and then what you could do is this. Okay, so you're going to notice on some of these screens, it's saying that my firm name is TrilliumCascadeLLC, and that's because I need to go into all these different systems and update the name of my firm. My firm name is just Amber Nestor or Amber Nestor Real Estate now. When I first opened my real estate firm, I called it Trillium Cascade. That we're not going to get into that, but anyway, for simplification and for consistency in advertising, I've just changed my firm name to Amber Nestor or Amber Nestor Real Estate. So anyway, don't get confused with the Trillium Cascade. That was also my firm. I just did some branding changes. So back to this diagram. So let's imagine here, okay? Here is the home site. We're going to use some red and we're going to draw a square right here, okay? So there's the home site that currently exists. And I want you to keep thinking about this property as like an entry angle. I'm going to highlight the driveway with turquoise. And we're going to get an extra thick line here. So here's that driveway, okay? So what if, for simplicity's sake, and you don't have to do it quite this way, but we're just going to say for simplicity's sake, divide the property up in the following manner. Okay, so now we've got some property lines drawn, and I'm going to talk about why I drew them this way. Okay, so lot 1, lot 2, lot 3, lot 4, lot 5. And then this space over here, you could maintain as hiking trails and wooded area and just a nature space, additional privacy space, beauty, okay? Additionally, the topography through these sections here is either already mostly cleared and grassy, very flat, or very gently rolling, okay? And so additionally, this left side of the property, and I say left because if you're driving in a car up the driveway and you point your left hand out of your driver's side window, there's a fence that takes that whole northern border or that whole left border of the property, okay? It runs parallel. So you can see the way the land lays. That side is already mostly cleared. The trees are thinner and it's gently rolling, okay? It's going to be the natural path to continue the driveway, okay? The gravel drive. And as you're developing home sites in that order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to be moving dirt into the central part of the lot where it sits just slightly lower. So you're just going to naturally be perfectly evening out the flatness of the rest of that lot as you're progressing through that development process, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? And also trees that you remove, you might want to keep, you know, some ornamentals like the dogwoods or whatever you desire. But as you're removing trees that you're going to remove, you could even maybe remulch those in to sections of the yard, okay? And now you have 5 home sites. You could go through a company like SummertownMetals.com or even maybe Tuffshed, TUFF, and you could build small 1-level homes, okay, that meet the minimum square footage requirement for that zone. They have floor plans such that they could be expanded in the future. So make it so that at least 2 walls, let's say you go with a simplistic rectangular design, make the placement of your structure such that at least 2 walls could be expanded upon in the future if you wanted to make those structures larger, okay? Your subdividing process would include a specialty survey where the home sites were indicated, where the lot lines are indicated, where the road rights would be indicated. And the placement of the extension of that graveled road and shared driveway would be indicated as well. What this does is, and this needs to be recorded with the deeds and with the county's maps and diagrams. What this does is it protects the future of the properties should at some time in the future one or all of them be sold. It protects the access, it protects everything's just a permanent record there, okay? So what you could potentially do is share this main house, then the houses that you built in sections 1 through 5, and you could keep maybe a lot of the trees so that you have a little bit of seasonal privacy or whatever. But anyway, those houses, you could live in them 1 week and then Airbnb them the next week. So when you had an Airbnb person staying in the home, you could stay in the master home. You see, so you could basically alternate weeks, or you could alternate every 2 weeks, or you could alternate every 3 weeks, or you could alter, however you want to do it. But you could have 50% of your time lived in the main home and 50% of your time lived in your private home. And the other time it's an Airbnb that's producing revenue for you, okay? Revenue to pay off the cost of developing the home. Once that is paid off, you have debt-free co-ownership of the primary home and ownership of whichever house has been assigned to you. So let's say you've got 5 people. Well, person number 1 says, okay, this is the lot I want, and everyone agrees. Person number 2 says, this is the lot I want, and everyone agrees, and so on and so forth. Okay, so as these sections are subdivided, these would be dedicated ownership to one person, okay? This front section would be shared ownership between those 5 people at this stage. This section over here would be, this wooded area would be shared ownership of those 5 people at that point in time, okay? And considering you're doing like an Airbnb thing in this particular scenario, you could make hiking trails throughout this wooded area such that, okay, in the future, those hiking trails could be expanded into home sites, okay? So there could be hiking trails with little picnicking sites and picnic tables, and where you place those picnic tables could be future home sites, you see? And until you get to that stage in development, this is an amenity that your Airbnb customers get to enjoy while they're there. They want to go for a little stroll, they want to go for a little picnic, they can do that, okay? So I made this video to try to help people think about these are ways, scalable ways. And what do I mean by scalable? I mean, you're taking small steps that you can afford that also allow you the opportunity to grow, okay? So let's say you fast forward 2 or 3 more years past this point, and maybe, you're thinking about all of you selling off this house and this front piece, okay? You could do that, but if you're going to keep doing Airbnb, you want to make sure you have some control over what happens with this property, right? So you don't want somebody to move in there and have like little to no restrictions and make it all junky, right? So that might be a risk if you sold that piece off. This plan is really best done if you all continue to maintain permanent ownership of all of this property so that you have control over its quality, okay? So creating an agreement that says, here's what's going to happen between all of you, and not one of you can mess it up for the rest of you. You see what I'm saying? Would be really ideal. I mean, I would say maintain shared ownership of this. Each of you have your individual ownerships of these. And then you could put into your deeds rules and restrictions, right, that protect each other. So a lot of people don't realize this, but whenever a deed is created, or even let's say you already have a deed and you've had it for 30 years. You can put into it, you can go to a title company, like let's say Paramount Title, the Crossville branch, call them up. They're wonderful. Anything that they don't do directly, you can ask them to connect you with a person that can help. But say you want to put some rules and restrictions into these subdivided lots, into these properties, you can put just about anything in there that you could think of, you know, and this helps create rules so that there's consistency and stability, and it's enforceable, either through court or through zoning or whatever it may be. Anyway, it's really important, again, I know I've said this before, it's really important that if you pursue a project like this, that the people you pursue the project with are extremely like-minded, similar values, dependable, peaceful, respectful, and have the same vision and have the same plan. If one of you decides you want to exit this for some reason, let's say somebody has a job opportunity on the other side of the country, and they just decide they want to go a completely different direction. You could have a contract with your partners in this project that says the other people in this project have first right to buy the piece that you're trying to exit and leave, so that we can maintain the stability of this project long term and the quality of this project long term. They also could write into that contract of collaboration that they have a right to, if they cannot themselves come together and buy that part from you, that they have a right to try to find the right person for the job. Okay. If you were to market part of this on the open market, you typically can't do that. You couldn't do it like a job interview process. So you would need to do it off market, and you would need to handle it like a business and like a job interview process, because it is a business and it is a job that needs to be filled, and the property has to be managed such that it's going to protect the entirety of the project, right? And there's ways to do that. There's ways to go about that. So this video is getting kind of long, but thinking in this way is what I believe is going to help some people to scalably change the course of their lives and multi-generationally change the course of their children's lives and their grandchildren's lives. With the state of the economy, with cost of living and cost to run a business so challenging, a process like this can be extremely fruitful and completely life-altering. You could have a group of 5 young men who are able-bodied and handy, and they could come together and do this, and it could completely change their lives forever. Just totally change their lives forever. They could all come from very modest means, but have great credit scores, have the ability to get these small loans, and they could achieve this together. You know, so anyway, I think this is a really interesting concept. I think that, you know, it should be done more often. I think that maybe a lot of people are not used to thinking about these kinds of possibilities, but these are the kinds of things that I think about all day, every day, having, you know, spent my career focused on land and development. I've studied a lot of larger subdivisions over the years and HOAs and the history of those, and I've seen some that were successful or that failed or that were horrible or that were complete and utter failures, or that were great and then a bunch of stuff went wrong and then they were great again, and then some other things went wrong and then they were great again. And it's a lot, and that's why if you do it on a smaller scale with a smaller group of people who again are very like-minded people, there's just this really great opportunity for success there. And you know, maybe anyway, there's a million different ways to slice it here, but I'm gonna wrap this up. We're almost at 45 minutes. I hope you learned something new about real estate today. I hope you learned something different about the way to think about the way you can achieve your goals, the way that you can open up opportunity for yourself, especially if you have a handful of people that you can deeply, deeply trust. I'll tell you one more quick story here before I wrap this up. There was a gentleman I made the acquaintance of maybe about a year, 2 years ago. He worked for a construction company, and the man that had founded this construction company, I think he was from maybe like Cumberland County, or maybe the county north of that is what I'm picturing in my mind. Anyway, what this construction company owner did was he had like several guys from his crews. He's a pretty big company. He had several guys from his crews that were like long-term guys that he wanted to keep on his crew. They were consistent, they were dependable. And so what he did was he created housing solutions for his crew. And he bought property, you know, kind of like this, and gave the guys either no rent or extremely cheap rent and said, hey guys, live here, fix it up, make it as nice as you desire. And he created affordable housing for his crew, or a portion of his crew, which, you know, solved a huge problem in their lives. And, you know, in a way was like a source of income without being a source of income, right? If you pay someone more money, then they're going to be taxed more. If you improve someone's quality of life, then the benefit of that is just astronomical to them, right? So I think it would be really cool if more businesses would start thinking in terms of creating housing solutions for their contractors or their employees, because why not, you know? And yeah, so there's just so many different things that this could impact, and so many different ways you could go about something like this. But wanted to talk about this a bit today. I think it's valuable and important. I wish that our public schools were preparing our young people to think in terms of collaboration, to think in terms of coming together to create housing solutions for each other. Because what could be more important than having a place to live? What could be more important than being debt-free? That is when people start to just really achieve incredible things, when their quality of life is wonderful and they're happy every day. So anyway, I pray that God blesses you with health and wealth. And if you have any question about real estate, buying, selling, investing, etc., listing, advertising, give me a text at 865-617-4783. Again, that's 865-617-4783. Have a great day.